Now that should tell you about the attitude of the person who we are forced to call Prime Minister. The people in New York are more important to him than the people of St. Joseph who can't get no water, than the people of Lower State who are affected by pungent, toxic smells. They are more important to him than the Barbadians who suffer daily under the whips of this Democratic Labour Party administration. I want to ask Mr. Stewart tonight why he has not yet announced a date for the general election. Now, you know, there are some things that cause us to scratch our heads. Every prime minister in the history of this country has dissolved parliament and told people when the date of the next election is going to be. Every prime minister, that is, except for Frondell Stewart. If you go to the dentist will give you the date of your next appointment. If you go to the doctor, he gives you the date of your next appointment, and even the lawyers will tell you when your next appointment is going to be. But Frondell Stewart feels that it is perfectly all right for him to have Parliament dissolved around him, but not call an election. If there's one thing that the Barbados Labour Party knows, is the importance of certainty. The Barbados Labour Party knows the importance of certainty for investors, certainty for Barbadians, certainty of taxation, certainty of laws, because it is certainty that engenders stability in a country. And the certainty of an election date is no different. In fact, Frondell Stewart's failure to call the election is the grossest form of disrespect that he could ever visit on Barbadians. And his excuse is that he is not breaking any law. That's his excuse. Well, I ain't breaking the law. But I want to tell Frondell Stewart that that kind of reasoning is unacceptable to a modern and educated Barbados. It is not an excuse that befits a leader of a Democratic Labour Party, of a democratic country. That you are not breaking any law is no excuse for not calling an election. And this perhaps is a speech that Trevor Prescott could give better than me, because in the history of humankind, we have always come to understand that even though a particular thing might not be breaking the law, it is instinctively wrong, and it is in breach of the laws of nature and good conscience. There are numerous things in the history of humankind that were not in breaking of any law, but that we all understood that they were wrong. I want to remind the Prime Minister of the history of Barbados as it comes to slavery. Slavery was not breaking any law, but it was wrong. And this is St. George Weir on Lower State Plantation. It was not against the law for any plantation owner to force himself upon any slave, but it was wrong. Under our laws today, it is possible for you or I to discriminate against an individual based on race, based on sex, based on religion, but it is still wrong. So I want to tell Mr. Stewart that he must not fool himself. Because he and his team might not be breaking any law, it doesn't mean that his stay in government is any less wrong. This too is unacceptable. It is unacceptable for Barbadians to be keenly aware that a term of office has come to an end, but that we do not know when the next election is going to be. It is wrong, Frondell Stewart. Give us the date. But you notice that Frondell Stewart cannot even tell us when the crop is going to start. So if you cannot tell us when the crop is going to start, then I don't know, maybe I'm expecting too much for him to tell us when the next election is going to be. But this is not any artificial fear, you know. This is not artificial fear. The Barbados Labour Party has been and continues to be concerned about an administration that stays in office long after Parliament has been dissolved. And if you thought that this was false fears, you only need to look at the events over the last few weeks. I was startled when I opened my Nation today and I saw that the Nation said that they asked Frondell Stewart a few questions about Four Seasons. Not Frondell Stewart, Chris Sinkler, about Four Seasons. And that Chris Sinkler refused to answer the questions. He said, I am not taking any questions on that subject. On a subject that involves Barbados $120 million over the sale of property that the Barbados government has taken a mortgage over, Chris Sinkler feels it is all right for him not to take any questions. Chris Sinkler feels that it is all right for him not to explain, not just to the Nation newspaper, but to the people of Barbados, how he could say to the public in 2016 that he is going to sign an agreement for the sale of the Four Seasons property in the next few days. And then a few days later he said, I have just signed a sale agreement for the Four Seasons property in the last few days. But we discover, this is in 2016, let my people go, Frondell. But we discover that the Four Seasons property was sold in December of 2014. Now, Chris Sinkler once called me a liar. And the Nation reported it, and, well, I brought a libel action against him because I'm not known to be a liar about anything. But Chris Sinkler must have lied to the people of this country when he talked about him being about to sign an agreement for the sale of Four Seasons when Four Seasons had been sold 2 years before. And the reason Chris Sinkler does not want to take any questions about Four Seasons is because not a single cent of the money has been paid. Now, that is a new kind of sale. How do you sell something and the money ain't paid? I saw the conveyances. One of the conveyances said, in receipt of the sum of $30 million US, no paid to the vendor. Not a penny has been paid. But Chris Sinkler feels that it is all right for him to disrespect Barbadians, and he say he is not taking any questions because this is beneath him. There is absolutely no accountability that exists today. And if you thought that that was just, if you thought that this was just a little blip on the radar, I want you to think about the confusion that Barbados has been in the last week over something as small as the use of cell phones. I never thought that cell phones would bring this country to a standstill. I would never have thought that it could. But this cell phone issue has created so much confusion in Barbados that significant transfers have been made in the Royal Barbados Police Force because certain policemen in their speech have offended the Minister of Public Works. When you say that this is silly season, we know that people mean it is the election season. But the silliness of the Democratic Labour Party is not limited to elections. The silliness in the Democratic Labour Party is there from day to day to day. Now, I'm not going to get technical, but I want to take the opportunity to explain to you. Assistant Police Superintendent Stanford, he might not got a driver's license, but he's not a fool. He ain't a fool, poor fella. Stanford was given a job to do and he did it. But The problem is that the law that the Democratic Labour Party enacted was an ambiguous law, because a driver is defined as including a person who is in charge of a stationary vehicle. That is what a driver is. So I can't blame Stanford. I'm a lawyer, and I can't blame Stanford. But I have a problem with how the government has dealt with it. And I want you to remember that Mia Mottley, Edmund Hinkson, and myself in Parliament said to them, hold on. Don't rush with this law. You rush with two others. Don't rush with this law. Let us take our time and get it right. Because there's nothing that promotes chaos more than a law that does not make any sense. For the Latin scholars among us, there is a Latin statement, lex mala lex nulla. And it means that a bad law is no law at all. And poor Stanford get transferred because he was put in a position because he had to defend something that he did not do. Stanford does not sit in Parliament on the benches of the Democratic Labour Party. He didn't pass no law. A law was passed by the Dems. It was stupid in the way it was presented. The driver of G5829, it is now an emergency. We're asking you, please move your car. It is an emergency, G5829. Please move your car. It is an emergency. So poor Stanford, as a police officer, was forced to deal with the law as it is written. And you then have a minister of government who is breaching something called the doctrine of separation of powers, who comes to the country and tell the country what the law means. Now, that is for the courts to do. The doctrine of separation of powers means that he is in the cabinet, he does cabinet work. Parliament does parliament work. The court does court work. It is not for a minister to tell the police how to interpret the law and how to apply it. But he came out and told the police how they have to apply the law. Now, this may seem like a small thing, but it isn't. Because the doctrine of separation of powers underpins the democracy of Barbados. It is that doctrine that allows a court to say to a government that it was wrong when it wanted to fingerprint Barbadians for a passport. It is that doctrine that told the government that it was wrong when it refused to allow Commonwealth citizens to vote. The doctrine of separation of powers is a vital part of our democracy. And no minister can tell the police how to do their job, nor can it tell the court how to do its job. I am sure that the Democratic Labour Party has caused more confusion and chaos in this country than any other administration in its history. We have chaos in our roads. We have chaos in our bus stands. We have chaos in our schools. It is almost like an illness. The country's sick. The country ain't well. And the reason that the country is not recovering is because the people of Barbados went to the wrong doctor in 2008. They went to the wrong doctor in 2008. But I want to tell you that the Barbados Labour Party is ready and able, under the leadership of Mia Amor Mottley, to bring this country out. You know, what Glenn did not tell you is that the Barbados Labour Party has been working night and day to make sure that when we win the election, not if, when, that we have the solutions in place to bring our country out. And we have given you our solemn commitment. And our manifesto will come out in due course, so I'm not going to tell you what is in it. The Dems want to know what is in it because in the last election they said, well, we can do the same thing that we promised we were going to do in 2008, which was absolutely nothing. But I am a part of a committed party, a part of a committed group of candidates who every single day, despite the fact that Barbadians keep telling us, man, what you want to do is impossible, we wake up every single morning with a plan to do the impossible. It is a shameful thing when Democrat Labour Party supporters tell us, man, we're going to have a hard time saving this economy. I tell them when they had a hard time mashing it up too. They haven't been telling you that. They're telling me that. I canvass and the names who have brought this economy to its knees, all they can tell me, man, this is not a good time to get a government. And I say this is the best time because we are on a rescue mission. The people of this constituency have in Glenn Clark an individual who devotes his every waking minute, his every energy to making the lives of his constituents better. This constituency has never had representation of the like of Glenn Clark. But I say that also about St. Andrew and St. Thomas. The Barbados Labour Party is ready and rearing to win this government and to rescue our country. Frondel, set the date for the sugar crop and set the date for the elections. Good night and God bless you.
You heard him, Dale Marshall, who we know will be returned to represent St. Joseph. And now, comrades, we have come to a very important part of our meeting this evening. Dale has told you how hard we have been working. Our leader has assured us that she has probably more energy than all of us together. She certainly, excuse me. Sorry about that. The driver of MC482, you asked to urgently remove your vehicle. MC482. As I was saying, she's leading from in front, dedication, passion, hardworking, and also understanding the seriousness of the issues which confront this country. She's been meeting, I can say, hundreds of hours in consultation, in discussions, in terms of solutions for the problems which will face Barbados and she will face when she becomes the Prime Minister of Barbados at the next election. Mia has the vast experience, second to none. She knows what is required. She needs your support, importantly. And I want all of you to give her your support, the political leader of the Barbados Labour Party, and ladies and gentlemen, most definitely the next Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Amor Motley.
Good night to the good people of St. George and the good people of Barbados. I feel good. But I don't only feel good, I feel inspired tonight. And I feel inspired because I had cause to reflect today. Today, as John King reminded us from this platform, is 33 years that a great man that has served this country, this parish, this party, has passed from us. And I refer to no other than John Michael Jeffrey Manningham Adams. I had cause to reflect on what Tom Adams' leadership of Barbados meant to the people of St. George. And I had cause to reflect as to who history would be kind to, Tom Adams or the Prime Minister that we now have. And I had cause to reflect that there are families across this parish and across the tenantries of this parish who now own land tonight because Tom Adams led a cabinet that said that the people of this nation whose families lived on rab land and plantation tenantries for centuries should not have to labor and not be able to own their own properties and build for their own families. And for the youngsters who are here in this crowd, you need to listen to this. And for the older ones, you need to forgive me if I reflect, because we need in a time such as this to understand why this Democratic Labour Party government and Frondel Stewart has been such an utter and complete failure to the people of this country and to the people of this parish. Because when you lead a country, your duty is to improve the lot of people. Your duty, Coburn, is to be able to say that better must come and shall come. And what Tom did in 1981-82 with the others in the Great Combination was to say that if your families lived on plantation tenantry for 5 years or more, that you could buy that land at 10 cents a square foot. It wasn't a policy that stopped in 1985 when Tom died. It wasn't a policy that stopped in 1987 when Errol Barrett died. It wasn't a policy that stopped when the Barbados Labour Party lost government in 2008. It is a policy that continues to today. And it was a policy that was designed to reverse historical imbalances that meant that people who otherwise should be landowners in this country were being marginalized. And what does it mean, young man, for you today? That you could buy 5,000 square feet for the price that you would buy for Air Jordan sneaker, $500. That you could buy a piece of land today for the price that you would spend in a shop under us, because you can't spend that price under Frondel now in a shop today. But that is what leadership was. And last week at Montgomery, I told you about his commitment to allow ordinary Bajans to become owners of transport and public service vehicles and taxis, and also restaurants, and it meant protecting us from the international franchises that you see on TV all the time. And for a while he did that. And let's look around these villages in St. George. How much wall houses do you see? Because when you paid $500 Cecil for a piece of land, It meant that you could move on and build the wall house that you really wanted to build, because the money you're borrowing from the bank or the credit union could go to build a substantial and a substantive house. That is what representation is about. But I also had cause today to reflect on a friend of mine. And I know that if we were coming to Sheffield Pastor, she would have been here. She would have been up front. She would have been up front just like she was up front at every cricket game in this, where's Tony? At every cricket game, all cross, baby Frey, you know, we all cross. I am talking about a good friend called Merlene. Merlene Goodrich. I'm talking about a good woman who I met many years ago at Silver Sands when the people in this branch in St. George North had a picnic. And from the very first day that we met, we became good friends. And when Chris Sinclair on the 13th of December 2013 announced that he was sending home people from the National Housing Corporation, one of the first people to call me that weekend was Merlene. And she didn't know whether she would be in those people that would go home or not. But she said, I pray, because I got this little youngster here. Good boy, Deontay, class 4, Parkinson School. And I want all of us to uphold him, because I met another youngster this week. Where baby Frey? In Licorice Village. And he told me, and this is a big man who told me what it meant to him when his mother died at 14 and how he has had to live over the last 20, 25 years. I can't remember what he said. But still remembering that his mother left him at a tender age. And we rode through that weekend, and I tell Merlene, don't worry. And the others would tell you that whenever I made my punch to creme, she would call me. And in fact, I think that was the last year I carried some up by her workplace off the depot by the Pine East West Road. And I carried a couple bottles of my punch to creme. And I limed for about an hour and a half there with her and some of her workmates. Less than 6 months after, she and many others were laid off from the National Housing Corporation. And you know, you don't know what causes people to get ill, but I know stress is one of them. And I know the stress of having to keep a family, and Vera, if you're here tonight, God bless you as well. The stress of having to keep a family together in this day and age, not knowing, not understanding where you can get your next job, and then it becomes a self-defeating circle, because when your health starts to get bad, you really can't go nowhere else and work for nobody. That is what we have done to these people in this country. But I've come here tonight to tell Merlene's family, and Merlene, wherever you are, and when we put you to rest finally on Tuesday, to say that there must be and shall be one Barbados. There must be and shall be one Barbados. And my colleagues on this platform will forgive me, because I have never been one for the political banter and the political abuse. That's not me. I am perhaps not the most entertaining speaker because of that. But what matters to me is how I can get many more of you to join the mission of building this country. And what matters to me is how I can get many more of you to join the mission of creating that one Barbados. Because I feel for Glenn Clark and Trevor Prescott and Dwight Sutherland as my constituents I feel for them. Because in this corridor of Barbados, we have seen our constituents neglected for the last 10 years. Shepherd, you know what I mean. The people behind BIM are only now getting some potholes fixed because I suppose people feel that the election's coming soon, so they might not know what the result is. So after 10 years, the potholes getting fixed. And I thank them for those small mercies. But I say to you that the residents across St. George, across St. Michael East, Licorice Village, the Bell, Titchburn, the Ivy, Huddersfield Turning, Bournes Village, Jackson, Bush Hall, all of us have had to suffer because we hold on to a type of governance in this country that is a scorched earth policy. It's a scorched earth policy. Who the cat like, and who he like. You really feel after 50 years of independence, a proud people can look in the mirror and say this is how this country should be governed? You really feel that after 50 years of independence and billions of dollars of educating our people, that we could be happy with the divide and the rule not being perpetrated by a colonial regime, but being perpetrated by Bajans like you and me? And I am not looking back. I keep telling you I don't have eyes in the back of my head. I might got some gray hair, but no eyes. So don't tell me about what happened in the past. Let me deal about what's going to happen in the future. And let me deal about what I feel. You cannot have the people of St. George and the people of Christchurch and the people of St. Michael and St. Peter and St. Lucy and all over not being able to say that they deserve a say in whether a street light should be repaired, and whether garbage should be collected, and whether bush should be cut. The people who are being affected is the little old lady who has to stand up by the bus stop and the lot behind her is full of bush. Outside dark and the street light gone, and she praying that nobody don't come and take her bag. And when the bus is not running, to whose mercy is she being left? And in the meantime, Chris Sinclair can't tell you where the money gone. I mean Four Seasons, of course. What kind of country are we building? We saw the Democratic Labour Party tell you that they wanted constituency councils to start to solve this problem. And what did you get instead? An extension of the Democratic Labour Party constituency branch, hand-picked, spending money in Northeast on movie nights. And I got people down in First Avenue, Jackson, suffering. You got people all about St. George and Lower State, Charro Bridge, Newbury, Jordans, all suffering. And a bunch of hand-picked people on a budget initially of $10 million and now $5 or $6 million a year, and people can't get things done. I ain't talking about handouts. And I'm saying to you that I've come to St. George at Sheffield tonight to bring a message that this mission of One Barbados must start. I want the best for Barbados. The Barbados Labour Party team, which I have the honor to lead, wants the best for Barbados. And part of that best for Barbados means that we have to pause and understand as politicians, it's not about us, it's about the people. And as Joe Atherley reminded me, the bishop that he is, the conscience of this party that he is, reminded me so eloquently this week, if we want, not me alone, but all of us, if we want to trust, if we want the people to trust us, we have to trust the people. We have to trust the people. And we therefore need to understand that we have a form of governance that is killing us, that is choking us, that is a scorched earth policy, crazy. You don't walk about Sergeant's Village and say, I like you because you're a B, I like you because you may be a B, and I don't like you because you're a D. Nobody don't operate that way in life. And as I told you, when you got to reflect on these things, you know, the beauty of these meetings is that I find some quiet time just to meditate and reflect. And when I start to meditate and reflect, I realize we don't have a choice in this mission. This country is in crisis. When Tom became leader in 1976, Barbados was equally in crisis. Barbados had come through the oil crisis. Barbados had 400 small shops from St. Lucie to St. Philip that shut down. Barbados had a sales tax like the NSRL that Jepta Ince upholds against the people of St. George. Because all he does is to support what Chris Sinclair does, not what you, the people of St. George, want. Barbados had a sales tax. And that sales tax was killing people. Men and women were put on 3-day weeks. You remember that? And Tom Adams came. And Tom Adams told you, tighten your belt. I say, Johnny my boy, and them sang it as of midnight tonight. But when Tom told you that, as he dealt with the crisis, he never stopped dealing with the mission of transformation. I have come here tonight to tell you, the people at Sheffield, that there shall be one Barbados. And that the government that I shall lead of the Barbados Labour Party team for the times will face the crisis, but it will never take its eye off of the mission of transformation of this country. And the mission of transformation as it relates to the government has to be to give you a role. Has to be to trust you. Has to be to understand that you have a role to play in helping members of parliament and in helping the central government. But who know better than you when you need the bushing? Who know better than you where the street lights out? Who know better than you where the potholes need fixing? And if it means that we have to allocate a little more money, not for the assemblies that we will elect, the people's assemblies, because let me say, we will abolish constituency councils because it is a blotch on our landscape. It is a blotch on our landscape. Hand-picking people to spend the taxpayers' money with no accountability and, no way. But what we will have and what we will discuss with you, because as much as we craft the policy in 111 Robert Street as we did this week, we have to come to you. And that will happen once you legitimize this relationship. But what we say to you is that you must speak about and from something. And that something is the concept of a people's assembly, where the members are not handpicked, but the members are elected by you, the people. And I want to thank the Parliamentary Party of the Barbados Labour Party, in particular Ralph Thorne and Bishop Atherley and Kirk Humphrey and others. I want to thank David Comijong from the Climate Pain Movement. I want to thank Clyde Maskell, who has been agitating for this for some time. I say to you that this is an idea whose time has come. And Kirk, you did a brilliant job on Tuesday on the people on the People's Parliament, representing. And that is why the people of St. Michael's South shall say, one love to Kirk on election night, because he shall be the Member of Parliament in St. Michael's South then. Because a movement is happening there too, and I feel it. I feel that movement. But I am telling you these things because this day of big man politics and one-upmanship, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about deepening our democracy. I'm talking about creating more room for you to be empowered and to participate in what we're building about here. We're not going to create privilege pumps. We're not going to create a system where only a few shall have a say in the matter. But we also believe that these people's assemblies can do other things. Right now in our country, for whatever the most minor land dispute, the most minor assault, everybody gone to the magistrate's court, charge, police charge, and Dale, I hope you dealt tonight with these laws that we are going to review that try to make everybody in Barbados a criminal now. But at the very time when Frondel and this government want to make more criminals, we want to reduce the number of people who can get criminal convictions. And I want you to bear with me and understand something. Because you don't need to be a criminologist to understand this. But in the days of Queen Victoria, back in the 19th century, anytime there was something that people did that they didn't want them to do, they would say that you have committed an offense and that you will get a fine and or confinement. We know that? You hang up in the 1925 Highways Act, you hang up clothes next to the highway. That, under the colonial regime, would make you a criminal. Hanging up clothes next to the highway. That is why I tell you that this government gone back to the dark ages, you know. Because they want to make you a criminal for being a farmer and not registering. 3 years or $5,000. For being a vendor and not registering. 3 years or $5,000. They want to make you a criminal because if somebody give you a small and they gone to the airport, could have get to you, could have gained weight for the flight. And I said, look, man, I don't want left this here with my family because them don't like animals and carry along this Hannah bananas too. I rush into the airport, I go into New York. Somebody who really don't particularly like you, who's a warden, come and say, my man, what you doing with that Hannah bananas and that sheep? Boy, I never see you with a black belly sheep before. Where is the proof of ownership? Now, you may eventually get out. But between Lord hope the woman gone to New York and not to London, because if it's London, you ain't getting there till the next morning. And the police got you, cross the station there at the Glebe, till the next morning. Because you can't show the receipt. Now, what kind of government in this day and age can be seeking to regulate people's behavior? You ain't murdering nobody. You ain't robbing nobody. You ain't raping nobody. You ain't thief from nobody. You understand? But the legislation is making you a criminal. Now we say that disputes all the time is happen because of a land dispute. Your line come over on mine. You're spilling over 6 feet on mine. It happens. But instead of having an approach that we bequeath from Queen Victoria, who has been dead for over 100 and how many years? We now want to reverse some of those minor criminal offenses. And we want to concentrate on restoring good peace and order and goodwill in a community. And we say that some of the members of these people's assemblies that you have elected should have the power to have people who can do mediation under the training of the court. So that instead of giving a person a criminal conviction and the two of them cutting the eyes, and next thing you know, the whole thing escalates in the village, escalate in the community, that we can focus on bringing back peace and healing in communities. Communities exist and get strong when they have strong people who hold the communities together. And it is in our interest to make sure that our communities have people who are strong. But what do we have from this government instead? Everything going down to town. The case is one of the 10,000 backlog you can't get before the magistrate. You losing a day's work every time you got to go to court and you still can't get the matter. You can't get a clean police certificate of character because the case before the court. You can't get the job that you want. But don't even talk about the police certificate of character because you can't get that for 6 and 8 weeks. But yet, we got little youngsters in this crowd that can write programs, that can do a database, that can give you anything in a database within seconds. What kind of country are we running? So when I say to you that we have to change how we govern, this is only but one small example of it. Because when we do this, friends, we're going to make less criminals. We're going to make life more relevant to you. We're going to give you purpose. And we say that in these things, that people in their communities should have that say. On the big roads, you may not get that say because Barbados has a limited amount of money to do all the highways. And you can't do highways from 30 constituencies or 11 parishes all at the same time. But what we will do is to make sure that there's transparency so that when your requests are made, anybody in the country can see it because it must be laid in Parliament. And people will eventually say, but how is it that you keep ignoring these roads in St. George? Glenn Clark, as Member of Parliament, made a case and the road started to be cut coming down from Market Hill for the broadening of the road. You remember that? And the putting of the sidewalks. You only have to pass there tonight or tomorrow morning and see all the bush that grew up. You only have to go to Roach Village. And as you're driving in or coming out, regardless which one, you see the side roads in there for the house lots that were to be put in there that have not been completed for all these years. And what is it that the people want? When I go into Roach Village, the people tell me, well, all we really want is access to some land to farm, and we want a pasture. But instead what we get is piles of garbage collected. You go in there on a Saturday and see garbage the width of this stage and the height of this stage. You really feel that this is the kind of Barbados that we should be dealing with? So I have come tonight, my friends, to tell you that this mission of One Barbados, because the few constituencies that they feel may not come to us and may not come to us, if they don't, we will still take care of you as part of One Barbados. Marcus will tell you, I have never asked Shepherd, Marcus, Ms. Blenman, I have never asked not a fella in my constituency if there's B or D. I beg you for the vote. Don't get tapped. I beg you for the vote. But at the end of the day, I have a duty to represent everybody. I know that there may be some people who will never vote for me like Leroy Paris. You can't get all. You can't get all. But what I'm telling you is that there has to be a dignity that we attach now to this thing called politics and representation. There really has to be. And when we go to St. John Thursday night, you will hear me expound more on this. Because just as we will represent Barbados, we will beg for the vote all over Barbados. But you see, what we have is a government and a prime minister who is consumed by their own survival and their own agenda. Have you ever doubted it? Look at what happened a few days ago. You go and you have the Electoral and Boundaries Commission as a party in a matter. And you have people who have been living here. In one particular instance, the woman has lived here for about 18 years. She has not given up her nationality, not because she's not entitled to be a Barbadian citizen, but as I understand it, she is from Montserrat, and she does not want to feel that her birth in a country that has had the most vicious decimation because of the volcanic explosions means nothing. And that's an emotional connection that I can understand. I can understand it. And I must stand for something because at the end of the day, all of us are what? Proud Barbadians. In the language of Satchmore, I am a proud Barbadian everywhere I go. So that, how do we get to the stage where an impartial body, persons represented by both major political parties, but tasked with being impartial for the reason of fairness, is now to go back to the court and say, we want to appeal the fact that you say Commonwealth citizens who live here for 3 years and live in a constituency for 3 months should be able to vote. Do you know that that is the same courtesy that is extended to Bajans throughout most of the Commonwealth? Do you know that? But what it shows is that the government slip showing. And the government slip is showing you don't want them to vote because you feel that they're going to vote against the government because you know that they know that you're doing ignorance in the government. But what they're not telling you is that, and listen carefully, at the very same time that they don't want you to hear about Commonwealth citizens voting, ask the Prime Minister why he has not called the election yet. Ask the Prime Minister if this has anything with him wanting to go to the same Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in London to meet the Queen, to take a picture with the Queen in April next month. Ask him whether it has anything to do with the fact that as a student of history, he wants to be present at what may become the Queen's last Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting if she does not travel outside of the UK again. Ask the Prime Minister whether this means more to him than Commonwealth citizens voting in Barbados because he has not given the directive to listen to the judgment of the Chief Justice. Ask the Prime Minister whether it means more to him to go to London to take a picture with the Queen than to find the money to make the foreign debt payments in the month of June that Barbados has to make. Ask the Prime Minister if it means more to him to go to London to visit the Queen than to have public servants in this country have their salary increases reviewed and settled. Ask the Prime Minister if he understands that the people of Barbados are ready. Ask the Prime Minister if he understands that there can be no excuse for not putting the interests of the people of Barbados above all else tonight in this country. So that when we say to you that we have reached that point in this country's life where crisis and the need for transformation meet, where new structures of government that meet the needs of what you feel on the ground, where you have had to endure hardship after hardship. And I haven't gotten in deeply tonight to what you are facing to make ends meet economically. I've dealt with the state of your community. But if I were to get to the point of that, then I would have to ask you, to ask the Prime Minister, whatever happened to your commitment to give 40% of government contracts to small businesses? You haven't even given 4%, far less 40%. But I say to you tonight that this is a mission to save Barbados. And you, the people of St. George North, must ask Jepta Ince when he comes around, how can you, in our name, continue to accept that the NSRL should be charged on all goods that we must buy from the supermarkets and the shops across St. George? How can you, Jepta Ince, in all conscience, ask us for a vote and not be the person championing the causes of the people of St. George in the Senate because you have a platform? How can you, Jepta Ince, ignore the fact that you can tell from the Prime Minister's office and where you are, in which you are found, you can whisper in Frondel's ear and say to Frondel, my man, and I could get serious in here tonight, you know, because my man, the people of Charo Bridge, and the people of Bournes Village, and the people of Laura Estate, and the people of Airy Hill are suffering from the dumping. And y'all gonna come to understand me, you know. The fact that the illegal dumping was done by a constituent of mine has nothing at all to do with the fact that it must stop. And he knows how I feel about that. And I have spoken to Anderson Cherry about it. But what has now happened is that clearly the capacity to resolve the problem is beyond his capacity. Now, when you have these things happen, Jepta Ince, a government is to stand up, not just send the Ministry of Health wants to shut down the place, but you have to step up to the plate and get rid of the public health problem, because it is what? A public health problem. And if it is a public health problem, then it is the responsibility of the Chief Medical Officer and the Ministry of Health and the Environmental Protection Department, not true, Shepherd, to deal with it. You should know. As a good retired man, I am telling you that these are the things that are humbugging our country. And you have to know, and people who are close to me know, that two rights don't ever make a wrong. And that if there's a problem, we have a duty to fix it. We don't run away from it. And when I went with Glenn Clark to the Church of God, 2 weeks ago it was, 3 weeks ago, the pain in the people. You imagine, I mean, I feel for the businesses, that's true. But at least the business people and the employees could go home somewhere else. It's the ones who live out here that can't go nowhere. They can't go nowhere. And when I saw Ronnie do the video on social media about 2-3 months ago, it hurt me. And this is not about blame, you know. This is about fixing it, because the blame, and if there has to be a cost, then Mr. Cherry will have to pay. But what matters is resolving the crisis, because it is as much a public health crisis as the South Coast Sewage Project is. Different scale, but it is a crisis. So, ladies and gentlemen, I need you to join me on this mission. And I need those who are watching us at home to join us on this mission. Week by week, until the time comes, and literally day by day, we will begin to show you and give you texture and flavor and color as to what this mission will look like. We will show you that there will be room for every group and every person in a Barbados under the Barbados Labour Party and Mia Mottley. That there must be one Barbados. That we are one people. That there is one aim. That we will have one destiny. And in the words of Marcus Messiah Garvey, the mission of our generation is to claim our destiny and to emancipate ourselves so that we may chart our destiny. And we want to chart that destiny because we believe that we are equal and up to the task. And when you go home tonight, I want you to think upon it, and I want you to talk to your friends. And if you believe that we are going in the right way in the people's assemblies and giving you room and participation and deepening how we do things out here, and recognizing that no 30 people can totally rule this country, then I ask you to become missionaries in this mission. Because together, my brothers and sisters, we shall make it. We shall make it. Good night and God bless.
Thank you all, and travel safely home. I will see you on Thursday night in St. John and Sunday night in Briar Hall. Travel safely. Good evening.